Okay, so welcome back to another Bitwig tutorial, and in this one we need to talk about the Polymer. Just a great synth, just a great synthesizer. Now, I know if you look at it, it looks super simple, but it's actually very complete. Now, if you're starting on synthesis and you're just making this your first synthesizer, just abort mission. Just don't do it. This has a lot of things. It looks simple, but notice all the things you can do and all the things you have right here, and you have even different envelopes. So it's just a very I wouldn't say very complex, but it has a lot of parts. So this is your first synthesizer, just stop watching. Don't, you're gonna get confused. You go and learn this one. Look at on my channel. I have an explanation of this one. This should be your first synthesizer, or maybe even the organ synthesizer on Bitwig. All right, so start there. Now, on this one, I am assuming that you already know synthesis. You already understand what sync, what phase modulation, what frequency modulation, and what with all the different filters, and you already know. You have that experience. And of course, I'm not going to talk about everything in depth, because again, I am assuming that you already know what a sync is and what a pulse width modulation is. Right? I already know what a wavetable, what is a phase modulation. Again, I'm assuming, so I'm not going to go in super detail, but we are going to cover every kind of a single part of the synthesizer, so we can understand it and start using it, because it's just fantastic one. Now, of course, this one, it's based off the grid. So all of these components, they come from the grid, and we have the ability of convert this synthesizer to a grid kind of a module, but we're going to talk about that later. I'm going to bring a fresh default patch you get whenever you throw a Polymer right here. And I'm going to first do something like that. I'm going to full sustain, no attack, no nothing right here. And I'm going to go full, and I'm going to lower the volume because it's going to be very kind of annoying. And I'm using a little bit of reverb, so kind of a sounds like that. So, okay, so right from the start, we start from the oscillators. So you get one single oscillator at one time. You can modify this, but we're going to talk about it later. So you get different oscillators. First, you get a pulse, you get a saw, you get a sine. So this is the most classic waveforms. Oh, and a triangle. So the pulse is just going to be a pulse. You can go and you can actually see the pulse, and you can do a little bit of pulse modulation, pulse width modulation, and you have the sync control. So you can do a little bit of sync. And again, if you come from the pulsing, this is kind of very familiar with the sync right here. So, okay. Oh, and I'm going to go down on the subs, and I'm going to explain why in a second. Notice that now we get a more kind of a clear, or I would say pristine, kind of a square. Yeah. Okay, so we get a square. Now on the this is the pulse, of course. Now then we get the saw, and on the saw we get pretty much the same controls, but we get a shape. We can still do a sync, and we can do a shape like this. And again, it's just going to give you a different shape. So notice it sounds a little bit more narrow, and we get a little bit more bottom. Same thing with the sine wave. You just get a sine wave. If I go and double click default, we get a sine wave, but you can just make it a saw, or you can do it an inverted saw. Same thing with the triangle. You get a triangle, you can make it a saw, or you can make it not a saw. And with the sine wave and the triangle, you can do a fold. All right? So pretty simple. Right, and again, I am assuming you already know what fold and what sync is. Right, so you get the four most common, kind of a waveforms that you can, of course, modify a little bit, but you get the most common waveforms. Then you get the phase distortion. I'm going to skip this one, and I'm going to go to this one first. You get the phase one. Now, if you look at this, and it looks familiar, and it's because there's a different synthesizer called phase 4, which is kind of a pretty much the same kind of an oscillator you get on each of the 4 oscillators right here. Notice that if I go there, it says saw, then pulse width, then half, then go the double, and then the sine. So on this one, you get the same thing. The algorithm is going to be saw, then pulse width, then half, and then double, and then this. So of course, on each of these ones, you can modify the shape just like you can on the phase 4. And the shape, of course, is just going to convert whatever it is that you're using pretty much from a sine wave to something a bit more complex. And all of them, they have, their own kind of a sound. And this is going to be the feedback. So whenever you introduce a little bit of feedback, you're going to start getting that until you get, a little bit of noise. And again, this is very what you get on the phase 4, of course. Now, all of these ones, they have formants that will do. Let me just go down on this one and get something a bit, let's say, more normal. So yeah, this is a phase distortion, a phase modulation in this case. All distortion, actually, because we are not kind of modulating with anything. Everything is internal. We are not modulating this with a different oscillator. Like we can on the phase 4, for example, you have something right here and you can modulate it with a different one, just a bit different. But again, you have the option, to get kind of this same module right here. So then you get this one, which is something very unique that you don't have on the other oscillators from Bitwig, which is going to be kind of that super saw. And you get that unison, big saw kind of a sound. And again, I'm not going on detail on this because, again, I am assuming that you have experience. I'm just showing you controls and going over them. So you get a sine wave. Sounds very different. And then you get the amazing wavetable. So this is just a wavetable. So notice how big this is. You get your common waveforms. You get to a phase distortion one. You get one pretty unique. And then you get a wavetable. And on the wavetable, you can do wavetable things. So for example, you go to the index and you just navigate through the different kind of waveforms. In this case, if you click right here, you can go and just select whatever, table you wish. You have a lot. And you can even import your own tables from, Serum. Let's say you export it from Serum, you import it right here, and you can use it. How great is that? Now notice that we can navigate smoothly through the wavetable. Whenever you click on this one, it's going to go one by one without going, in betweens. So then again, right here, you get the phase distribution. Let me just disable this one and put it kind of something like that. So the phase distribution is going to, of course, mess with the phase. So if I make a chord, something, notice how different it sounds. All right. So this is not the most important part. Well, it is important, but, then you have the unison settings. So I'm going to go right here to unison. And whenever you start with this, it's going to be off, of course. Right? But as soon as you go up, you get that unison sweet sound with the, you're duplicating the voices. In this case, you get 3. And of course, you got the detune. You can go spread. So 100% is going to be super stereo and mono, pretty much. Then you can go, of course, let me just do something like that. You can go 5, more voices, 7 voices, 16 voices, which is crazy. And then you get this one. So you get the, it says fat right here, but I think that maybe you should say flat, I guess. So it's a fat or focused or complex. So if I go to something that you might know, I'm going to go to Serum. Notice that when you have more unison voices, you can spread them and you can kind of select a relationship between the voices that you're adding and the kind of the main voice. So if I go to 7, notice, let me just do it like this. I'm detuning, I'm spreading the voices, right? But then you have the green one and then you have the pink one. So you need to have a blend between your main voice and the unison voices. So right here, you get more of the main voice and then you get more of the unison and so on. So this is going to be kind of a flat. You get a kind of the same relationship between the main and the unison ones. So this is going to be the flat. So it's going to be this one. Now, that's why I'm saying it should be saying flat instead of fat, but that's fine. I don't know if this is an error, but that's okay. So this is, like that. And it sounds like that. Then again, you get focus. The focus is going to be something that you get more of the kind of the original 3. I'm playing a triad right now. And then behind, you get the other ones. Notice it's more focused because this one is at the center. And then you get a complex and you hover right here. is going to creates a unique beating between the voices. So it seems like it says and retriggers smoothly. So again, it's like, making a kind of a spread right here. Super spread, linear, focused, and complex. It's very nice. Okay, so that's the unison settings. Of course, if you want it off, you can just turn it off for now. Okay, so that's the wavetable. So every single oscillator, and notice that we already did a lot and we just covered the oscillator. So every single oscillator has pretty much the same ability right here at the bottom. You get a ratio right here. And again, I am assuming that you already know synthesis. So you get the numerator and the denominator. So when you're doing equal values, you're pretty much doing the same. If I go to 6.6, you're just not doing anything. Let me just close there and go back to this one. And I'm going to go to right here, the Polymer, the Detune, which is just a tuner. Notice I'm playing a C note, and I'm going to go maybe there. If I go 6.6, I get that. And if I go 1.1, I get the same. So whenever you offset them and you select different combinations, you're going to get, you're going to go different, you're going to go up in pitch or down in pitch. Again, I'm already assuming that you already know the pitch ratio. So if I go up, we get a C, which is higher C, but if I go to 3, you don't get a C. No, it is. So this is not an octave selector. So you get a G. So you have C, E, and G. So you get a fifth. So for example, if you do something like 4, you get a C. But if I go up, you get a C, you get an F. Which is, if you think about it, it's going to be a fourth. So again, the relationship between them is going to be a little bit different. You're going to get different, of course, tone. Just a different tone, but you're selecting different values. So if I go up on the other one, I'm gonna go lower. And this is gonna really matter. Whenever you create a sound, you can even modulate this. So okay, so then you get the semitone control. You can go semitones right here, in cents, and then you can go by semitones. Pretty simple. Now, of course, right now. With the wavetable, we can get that unison kind of a vibe by, spreading the voices. So we get that, nice sound. We can still get it right here with the voice stack. But, if you don't want to, what you can right here, you get a detune. So if I make a chord and I detune this, notice it's detuning. But this is just a detune, right? We are just detuning the voices a little bit up or down. Now, if right here you have a button that says stereo detune. So whenever you do this, it's going to detune stereo, the left from the right, and we get that stereo spread. But you're not getting more voices, it's just the stereo spread. It's just detuning the left from the right. But you can make it sound a little bit wider this way. So then you get the phase right here. So this is a phase modulation. Now, of course, when you do phase modulation, you need to have a different oscillator doing the modulation. So this is like the carrier. So we need a modulator. Who's going to be the modulator? Well, it's going to be the sub. So in this case, the sub is all the way down, but we have kind of a square right here, a pulse in 50%. And I'm going to just go there. And I'm going to play a note. And notice that we are getting that modulation. And this again comes from the, let me go to not stereo. This comes from the sub. So if I change the waveform, this is going to change the modulation. Right, pretty simple. Now, one thing that happens, of course, when you have something like this, let me just try to find something like that. So you have the retrigger, okay, right here. Notice how different it sounds. If I start playing, notice that not all the waveforms are the same. This depends on the waveform that you're using. Maybe if I do a little bit of sync. So the retrigger, of course, is going to just retrigger and everything is going to be more precise because everything is just retriggering at the same time. All right. So then you get this control on the bottom. Let me just disable for this now. You get this control is the key tracking. but notice that you have a different key tracking. So they are just different things. This one is going to disconnect this oscillator from the keyboard. So if I play a note and I have the sub all the way down and no phase modulation, I'm pressing a C right now and I get a C. Let me maybe go here. I'm pressing a C, right? I'm going to press a different key. I'm going to go an A. Doesn't matter. I get a C. So it doesn't matter. And I'm playing a lot of different keys. You always get a C because you're disconnecting the keyboard. You know, this is something that you get in a lot of synthesizers. Now, of course, when you connect it, you're going to be able to play whatever you want. Now, this is cool because you have the sync function. The sync, what it's going to do is going to hard sync this oscillator to the sub. So now when you sync it, and this is disconnected, I'm able to, you know, get some tones to play different notes, even though it's disconnected. It's because, again, this is being hard sync to this one. If I change the values right here at the bottom, it's just going to change a little bit because it's being hard sync. Same thing if we do something like that, we're going to start getting a more complex sound. Right? And right now, you know, I'm playing weird stuff, you know, random notes because I have the mouse, the microphone, and in the left side of, you know, of me, I have a keyboard. It's not close, so it's very hard for me to get it. But I don't have the space right now to, you know, put the keyboard and have the microphone and the mouse and everything else. So, okay, so now we know pretty much everything that we are doing right here. We know that we can disconnect it, we can sync it, we can retrigger, and we can do a phase modulation with the sub one. So then we're going to talk about the sub. So maybe you're thinking, and I'm going to go to something more normal, maybe a pulse and nothing else right here. Maybe you're thinking, okay, so if you have a sub, this means I can have subs and I can play the pulse and I have lows and I have the pulse. Nope, that's not what it means. So the sub, what it's going to do, let me just go maybe to a sine wave. I go all the way to 100% of the sub. This means that we are going or flipping the oscillator and we are just using this oscillators. It's like, you know, a mix selector between the oscillator 1 and the oscillator 2. And whenever we go up on subs, we are just hearing all the subs and nothing of this one. So think of this like the pulse synth, that you could have the two waveforms. And if you're right here at the middle, you're just getting both. And as soon as you get more closer kind of to the other one, you just get this one or nothing of this one. Well, this pretty much is the same thing. As you go up on the subs, you're getting less of the square, you're getting more of the sub, and at one point you're gonna get just the sub. Right? That's what it means. Now there's a way to override this and make it a bit more complex, but we can talk about that later. Now the sub, of course, you can go sine wave, different waveforms. Again, pretty obvious. You get a noise control. Again, pretty simple. And then we need to talk about the filters. Now, this is, again, a lot super complete, like the oscillators. It looks simple that we have only one single option and one single filter, but we have a lot. So the first one is just going to be a ladder filter. So let me just go right here. This is the key tracking. You can put it in 50% or whatever you want. Again, it's just a key tracking amount. This is a drive, so you can introduce a little bit of drive. And this is the amount of envelope we use with the filter envelope to, of course, provide a little bit of movement. And I remind you, I'm going fast because I already assume that you already know synthesis. So you get the filter control. Now, this is a ladder filter. So you get a 6, you get a 12, and the slope, you get the 18, and you get a 24. So within the same, you get just a lot of options, right? You can cut a lot. Let me just do something like that. Cut less, less, and less. And this is actually very useful. So then, of course, you get a resonant control. It's not super resonant. It's nice. I mean, you get it right there. Can you see it? You know, let me go to 24. Now we can see right there, you know, the peak. And notice that the arrow is showing you when it's going to start resting, you know, kind of generating the tone. Now you have a phase kind of a distribution on the gain. Notice that, let me just do a chord. Let's see if we can see a change. And actually we can see it. Notice that this one is asymmetric. So we get a bit more right here. And then this one is not asymmetric, so we get less. Notice it's brighter, darker, brighter, darker. This is of course more obvious when you go up on the resonance. If you go down, you know, there's not much difference. You cannot really hear it. All right. So again, just a common ladder filter. Then you get right here a low pass SK, which is going to be a silent key. And this one is, you know, a bit more aggressive, kind of a filter. And right from the start, I'm going to go there, and I'm going to go there. Notice that we don't get a lot of difference, but as soon as you go up and you start introducing the resonance, notice it's going to be very different. And we are still doing 24 on both, right? It's very loud. Not that louder. It's just, you know, just a different kind of filter. We are not losing a lot of the low end as well. Notice that when we do resonance, we lose a little bit of this. Just how it works. On the other one, we don't. Notice we get the peak and we are not losing a lot of the lows. Right? Just again, a different type of filter. And you still get the 12, 18, and 24 and the gain right here. Right. So again, just, you know, two different filters. Okay, so then you have this one, which is going to be the SBF. And it says highly resonant multi-mode filter. So it's highly resonant. Notice that the arrow is going to be right here. So whenever you go 50%, it's just like all the way up. So you're going to get there faster, of course. Right. But you get a multi-mode, so you can go cut the highs, cut the lows, or just, you know, do a band pass. Pretty useful. And again, notice that it's just, whoo. Just very different from the other ones, of course. All right. So then you get, it says friend of ladder device with 15 filter configurations. So right now, again, we are entering in the same thing. You know, you get the classic ones. You get something, you know, a bit more specific and kind of a special. And then you go to this one, which is pretty much the ladder filter. And it actually says, you know, it's a friend of the ladder filter. So if you don't know what the ladder filter is, it's okay. So I'm going to bring the ladder filter device. And this is just, you know, a device that you get on Bitwig. You know, maybe you don't know it. It's just a filter. But you get all these different modes to use this filter. And it's great because you get combinations of the high peak and low peak. And then you have a high pass, you have a band pass. You can do a lot of things. It's a very complete filter. And you also get a different filter on Bitwig that maybe you didn't know of because maybe you're just starting on Bitwig. You get the most, you know, just a common filter. But this one is more complete, right? It's just more options, just a different filter. So this one, the XP, is that ladder filter. Notice that you get pretty much the same thing and you get the same option. So it's the same filter. I feel like I don't need to explain anything, but you get, again, you let the low pass. You know, you get all the different low passes. You get the high pass, you can do a band pass, you can do a peak notch, and you get the combination, you know, in series of a high peak and low peak, which is something super useful. Right, so, super cool. So then you get a COM filter. So I'm gonna go there. And if you don't know what a COM, actually you already get, since you get a ladder filter, you get the COM filter on Bitwig, which is pretty much you're gonna create a resonant peak and you're gonna feedback it because that's how it works on a certain frequency. So this kind of works the same way. I'm gonna go and do this. I'm gonna maybe play something low, something like that. And notice that nothing happens. It's because we are not doing anything. As soon as you introduce the feedback, it's going to give you the feedback on whatever frequency you're selecting right here. And you can go negative, which sounds different, get that peak, or positive. So again, it's just a completely different thing. So this is more like more of an effects. It's just a comb filter. All right. Again, I told you at the beginning, this is not an easy synthesizer. You get a lot of things. It's not the polysynth, which is pretty straightforward. Get a million options right here. So okay, so I'm just gonna stick with this one, and of course, you get your envelope right here at the bottom. So the envelope, of course, is going to be controlled by this one. As you go up, your envelope is going to be controlling the amount of movement of the cutoff filter. And I feel again, I don't need to explain it because I already know that you know synthesis. So again, you just get an ADSR. Now, with this one, you can use this ADSR to control all the things. Let's say I want to do a little bit of sync and use this envelope to move the sync. So you can still do that just like with pretty much any synthesizer on Bitwig. Okay, so let me just put everything right here down. I'm going to put everything down. And I'm going to even do that, right? So we are just not going to get anything noise. Okay, so I'm going to put everything down. So we are not going to get anything. By opening the filter, we get that. So I'm going to just leave it like that. So what I don't want any sound from the pulse. I want some noise. So I'm going to go all the way up. And I'm just going to bring the noise. So if I play it, we get it, right? So of course, we can still apply some filter right here. If I go up, maybe I'm going to go something like that. We're going to have that slow. Kind of an introduction. If we go back, no, we're gonna move the filter because that's how it works. Now, what this option does, it's like working or using as an amp ADSR for the noise and the amp. So the output of this one is being controlled now by this one as well. So right now it's not doing anything. So I'm gonna give you an example. For example, I'm gonna go there, and I'm not doing any cutoff. We are doing something right here on the filter. So if I play something, we just get the noise. And we are kind of doing an AR kind of a thing. So we don't get much. So if I do this, notice that it's different. What we are doing, we are using this envelope to control the noise. Here we're going up, we stay up, and at one point we go down, and it dies. Right? It's pretty simple. If I do a little bit of sustain, it's going to stay there. And when I release it, well, I need more release right here. It's going to die. So again, this is a way of controlling the output of the noise, and it works for the sub as well. So it just works on both. Okay, so let's talk about envelopes. I'm going to put something right here that we can already hear, something, simple to hear. And you get your ADSR. You can still grab this and map it to whatever you wish. At this point, it's just a standard control. And of course, you get your ADSR. So again, I assume that you already know synthesis, and I don't need to explain this. So you get an AR, which is what we've been doing so far on this video, doing kind of creating an AR, so we don't have to worry about the envelopes. And you get a plug, which is kind of going to be a more plucky kind of a designed envelope, just with an AD and R. And then you get the AD, which is a two-stage loopable envelope. And this is, the more kind of the more special about these ones. But it's just an AD, and the thing is that you can click on there and notice that I'm gonna go and play a key, the C, right? And of course you get an attack and decay. It's gonna go and then just go down. And notice that you can change right here, slope. But if you loop it, I'm gonna press a key, keep it pressed, and it's just gonna be kind of a looping that. It's kind of a, let's say, a gate. Not a gate, but yeah, pretty much. Right, so again, you get a lot of control on the envelope. Pretty simple to understand. And we are pretty much reaching the end of this because everything else is super simple. You get a cutoff, and it's a high pass, just a high pass. And let me do something lower. Just a high pass. You get the pitch control. Pretty simple. You get the, You get the glide control with the legato, and at this point, this is a standard control on pretty much all synthesizers on Bitwig. And then, of course, you get your velocity sensitivity, again, just standard control. The gain that you're going to be applying, and everything is going to flow to the effects, with the gain. And you get the panning, go to the left, go to the right, Pretty simple, and then you get the out. And we are pretty much done with the tutorial. Now, with the guide. If there's something that you don't understand, go to the manual and just search that specific part on the web. For example, let me just give you an example. You don't know what a ladder filter is, right? You know about synthesis, but you're kind of confused. You don't know what a ladder or silent key filter is. If you look at it on the web, you're going to find a lot of information about what this is and how, they work. But it's very technical. It's very technical. But you have the option right here. And again, if you don't know what phase modulation is, you can go to the web, do a little bit of research, and find and learn a little bit about phase modulation and how it works. So that's it. Now, this synthesizer, it's fantastic. It can do a lot of things, can get a lot of things done, can get the job done. The only thing that it's, annoying about this synth is that you get only one oscillator, even though you can go to a wavetable and just spread it all over the place. But you get just one single oscillator. It would be cool to get, maybe to get two oscillators, or maybe have the sub not, just kind of go over this right here and create a nice blend. Remember I told you this is based on the node grid. This actually was built with the node grid. So if we go right here, we can see that is the node grid, right? The thing is that we can alter the values. Notice that we can go right here, do the noise, and notice, and right here, notice that you get the OSC or sub, and it's a bit more kind of easy to understand. You get more of the sub or more of the oscillator, but you cannot change it. You cannot remove the modules. You cannot even disconnect them. You cannot do anything, and it's kind of hard-coded. But it's not. You can modify this, but you're going to be turning this from a Polymer, which is the name of the synthesizer, you know what it is, to a node grid kind of a synthesizer. And you can do it by doing a right click right here, and you go and it says convert to PolyGrid. Be warned, whenever you do convert to PolyGrid, it's going to convert it to, a PolyGrid, and you cannot go back to Polymer. You just cannot. You cannot go back. So make sure that, you save your patches on the Polymer. And if you need to make changes or you just don't like it and you really want to add things, you can, go and do it on the PolyGrid. Now, this one, I can, do whatever I want because it's the PolyGrid. So let's say again, you find it really annoying that you cannot add more oscillators. Well, if you turn it into a PolyGrid, you can. So I can go right here to the pulse. I can just drag it and duplicate it. And it's going to pretty much be connected to everything, we already had. And now we have two oscillators. Now the thing is that this one, let me just go to the sub. And I'm going to get just the oscillator. And if I do a sync, notice that nothing happens. So if I'm going to grab this. I'm going to do Command or Control, I believe it's on Windows. And I'm going to put it right there, and it's going to give me a mixer. And it's going to keep everything just the way it is. But now we have a mixer between, these two oscillators. So if I play them, notice it gets louder. So I'm going to go down just a little bit of volume, just a little of that. And this one, I can maybe go to oscillator. And on this one, I'm going to do, I'm going to go and do a saw. So now we have a saw. And on this one, it's going to be a narrow kind of a pulse. And notice that we get it. And if I do a sync, now we have two oscillators going through a mixer. We can still get a little bit of the sub, and we can even do the phase modulation we get from the sub on both. This is fantastic because you get the Polymer, and if you need a bit more, you just turn it into the PolyGrid and you change something. You add that thing that it's annoying you or the thing that you need. And just great, man. Just a great device. Is just fantastic. So on Bitwig, when you talk about the synthesizers, all the synthesizers, they do different things. They have different vibes. But this is a more classic kind of vibe. This is kind of a chameleon kind of a thing. You can do a bit of everything. You can do a million things. even to turn it to a monster and then just modify and create your own synthesizer kind of a thing. Then you have the phase 4, which is phase modulation. You have the FM4, the take on FM modulation, FM. And you have the organ. And it's great. You get all the synthesizers, they all have different vibes. But of all of the synthesizers on Bitwig, this is, I believe, the more kind of a chameleon kind of a one. You can do pretty much whatever you want or turn it into something else. So, okay. So hopefully you like this tutorial. You learned something about this. And I don't know, leave some comments. Remember to like and subscribe. And see you on the next one.